Hi guys, so this is going to be your introduction into InDesign. I'd like to show you some examples that I've done in the past of just some samples of how this is going to end up looking. Your zines will be 4x6, and so we're going to go over the entire layout of InDesign. We're going to talk about the spreads that we're going to make, what this weird red line is, what this weird inner pink and purple line is, and just some other tips and things that you can do that differs between Illustrator and Photoshop. Okay, so first thing, when we're making our document, first and foremost, you're going to title it what it should be. For this, you can keep it very simple. I'm just going to say my last name underscore zine, and then I'm going to just say demo. You don't have to do that. As always, change it to inches. We're going to keep these pretty bite-sized, so we're going to go 4x6. Right now, you need to decide whether you want to make yours with portrait or landscape orientation. We want our pages to be facing. We're going to start with 1. And then also 1 column is fine. The margin 0.5 is fine. We're going to add a bleed. This is very important, of 0.125. And if we hit that link button, it will go to the rest of them. Don't worry about the slug. It is okay. And everything else can stay the same. So you can pause it to make sure that you have the correct sizes for everything. Okay. So here we are. I have my first page here, and I meant to add more pages, so I can always just press that create new page. And the more I add, when I add them in twos, they will add in spreads. So a spread is essentially just 2 pages that are going to be facing towards each other. Now, recall that for this assignment, you have to have 8 pages minimum. So I'm going to go ahead and add those. So this will be your back page, and then you'll have the cover. Let me zoom out a little bit. So you have 3 spreads worth of information with a front and a back cover. Okay, getting our workspace set up. So we'll come here, workspace, Essentials Classic. Make sure that we have access to the full properties bar, all the extra things that we might need. And then we're going to extend this out so that it's just a more complete picture. So welcome to InDesign. Everything, you should know the layout of how Adobe works by now. You've got your tools to the left-hand side, and whatever tool that you're working with is going to affect your properties bar at the top, and then you've got extra working tabs that you can play with. So some reoccurring characters, we've got the selection tool, which is the same exact shortcut, V for the black mouse and A for the direct selection tool, page tool, gap tool. A lot of these you actually will not need. We're going to keep it pretty light. We're still going with just the foundations. So some main tools we're going to be looking at are the rectangle frames and the rectangle tool. So remember these from when we were getting our layout set out, right? So any place you wanted to hold for an image, for a graphic, you're going to pull these rectangle frames out. Coming over here, so you have a look at your pages. So a parent page is something that's applied to each one of your pages. So if you have something that you know you want to be on each page, you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. You can apply it to the parent page. Think of this page panel almost like your artboard panel or your canvas panel between Illustrator and Photoshop, where you're able to control your pages. Okay, zooming in. So I mentioned this briefly when we were getting everything set up. but I've got two rectangles here. So, or I guess I suppose I have three. So I have this inner margin, right? So no text should be outside of the margin. All of your text is going to fit inside this inner rectangle. The page itself is represented by the white square, and then we have the bleed. So just to start off, if I'm going to make my first page a color and I want it to be the full page, I'm going to make sure that my image is stretched, or color, whatever you're using, is stretched all the way to the margin. And I want to make sure that those are lined up really well. And it looks like they are. So I want to make sure that everything is stretched to the margin. This should be a similar situation with your colors. So you have your fill, and then you have your outline if I wanted to give an outline, which I don't, so I'm going to get rid of it. Some other things that are reoccurring, you've got your align tool. Characters work the exact same. We're going to talk about the pre-flight panel in depth more in a moment. Color, that should be similar. Layers, yes, you can work in layers. Your stroke, your swatches, so you can get yourself set up however you see fit. Remember that you can always drag these around and find the place where you want them to go. It just depends on what you're looking for. And don't forget that if you come down here to any one of these tabs, typically there are always more features. So just spend some time looking at exactly what you're trying to do. So if I'm trying to change my color, come down to the bottom here. I can always look at the different gradients, or add gradient swatches, and then I can always add a new color group and things like that. So I'm fine with this kind of like dusty mauve color from my background. And so let's go ahead and just start adding some stuff to it. If I want to add some text, I want to add my title. I can always just draw a box out like normal, come up here and start playing with my fonts. So you are expected to make you're expected to download, I should say, some fonts that you haven't already used before. So you can go to DaFont or fontsquirrel.com and get those downloaded. If you are leasing a Mac from the MyAd IT desk, you're going to have them use an admin password to be able to get you locked in. So no worries on that. So let's call this a simple title. I will just call this, let's see, The Adventures of a D2D Student. Okay. So a couple things I want to show you. So for one, I've got all types of things I can do. I already wrote this in caps, but had I not, I could change my lowercase into high caps, turn it into subscript, add an underline, bring it to small caps, make it a different type of subscript, and then I could do a strike through. So that's everything applied in once. I don't necessarily want any of those, but what I do want is to make sure that it's centered, and I am going to go ahead and largen the size a little bit. So I'm going to take that point up. And then, so you've got some features here that should be some reminders of things you've done before. So if I wanted to change the amount of space per se in between each of those letters, I would come over here to my tracking. Because I have more than one line, I can also shift it up and down to see how it's going to look, and it's going to move according to, I can hit 0. I can also stretch my lettering. So if I just in general want my letters to be taller, I can use that feature right there. put some more space in between each individual letter. I can highly specialize my italicization, so intense. Um, you can work with that to the best of your abilities, whatever you're interested in doing. But one thing I do while we're looking at it, you might find this issue. So I'm like, where's the rest of my text? If you zoom in here, you'll see this guy. So notice this guy and then notice that guy. So this is your pre-flight panel that we were mentioning earlier. So this is going to tell you where the errors are. If you have something wrong, if there's something disconnected, something you need to fix. So I can click that. Overset text. So overset means that I have more text than I have room in my box. So a couple ways I can fix that. One, I could just click the overset text and then, let me actually lock that in place. Go to my layers, drop down, lock my rectangle. So I could grab my overset text and you see how it attaches to my cursor and you'll even see what's remaining. And I can come down, oh, whoopsies. I could come down and drag out another box and there's the rest of my text. So that's one way I can do it. Additionally, I could always just scale out my box. And so in this case, if we see my margin, my text is way too big. So I'm going to select everything and bring that point down a wee bit. And then if I want, come back over here and just align the whole thing. Okay. So remember, I'm trying to keep things within my margin, so I'm going to bring it down and I can like really put it. Oh, do you know why it's doing that? That's because I played with this. Okay, so get everything lined up the way that you want it. I can also use my arrows if I want to really, feed it in there. Okay. Also, I am going to put a little space in between just because it's, it's a little crammed together. So let's fix that up. Uh-oh, things got a little frozen. That happens, so be careful when working on your projects. Make sure that you're saving often so that things don't freeze on you. Okay, I like that. Okay, so moving on to the next thing. So I've got my name, or excuse me, I've got my title. I can make another text box and I can say, I Morgan. And this time I'm actually going to just keep it all lowercase. Morgan Bolds. Center it out. Change the font to something. So I can do an italicized version and do it regular if I want. This is where I would change that color. I could also add CMYK. So when it prints, it's gonna print in CMYK. So my computer is having a hard time catching up right now, so just bear with me. keeping things like I'll keep it maybe like a hint of green in there. Okay, so you're able to do whatever you want. Let's say I want to add some color, or excuse me, a picture on the front. So I would come up to place, and I'm going to find my DIA because that's where everything is for me. Instead, I've got all of your DIAs. One moment. Okay. Patterns. Let's take a look at this one. Alright, now here's the dealio. When I've got my picture, I'm going to draw it out. And I want you to pay attention to what happens when we have images. So right off the back, you're like, what is that? What is that thing in the center? And also watch what I'm doing. So I'm moving the whole thing. But do you see that space in between? So notice. All right, so I'm going to click out. Pay attention. I've got the whole thing and I'm able to move it. Almost like I'm moving it with the direct selection tool. If I double click it, there's this extra frame that pops up. And it's like, what is that? So that is your actual image. So think of it as an image and a frame. So this orange box is the image itself, and the blue one is the frame that it's in. So without that orange box activated, you're going to just move everything as it is. So if you want to adjust that frame, you'll have to do so. And you can always expand the frame. And they've got to kind of work together. It can be a little annoying, I'm not going to lie, trying to make sure that this works properly. And you know what I'm going to do? I actually really just kind of want this whole thing. I kind of want the pattern to be... So this allows me to shape my image in ways that the original orientation of that image might not be. So so right now I'm using my trackpad and I'm scrolling, almost like I'm zooming in. So I'm zooming in to get it resized. And currently it's doing so proportionally. And so there's my image, and I'm actually going to change my layering. So I'll turn that off. Bring this back. Bring this back. And now I got to change it to something I can see. This is just a simplified version of everything that's going on up there. I can just easily change the color by grabbing this. I'm just gonna make it pink on top of everything. I will also turn this pink so you can see it. And there's that. In this case, since I have a full image, I could opt to kind of centering things so that it doesn't feel so empty. So this is what I look like so far. What I hit is W. W like winner. That turns it into my preview mode so I can see what it would actually look like if I printed it out. Okay. And you know what? The more I'm looking at this, you can do what you want. If you want to keep a 1 or 1/2 inch margin, that's fine. I think I'm going to actually change mine because things are feeling a little bit cramped. So, if I want to adjust that, what I'm going to do is find my preferences. I actually don't think this is the right tab. I'm going to do some hunting really quick. I want to change my preferences because here we go. Document setup. So I'm going to actually turn it into a 0.25 margin. Yes, that feels a lot more natural. Now I have way more space. So 0.25 margin is what I go to, what I would want to go to. If you're following along with the assignment sheet, it should definitely lead you in the right direction and you won't have to worry about it. Okay, adding pages. So now I have my my next spreads. Okay, so here I can start to add whatever I wanted. Can come in, start getting things laid out. If I want a full bleed, I'll stretch that out. Don't turn it black just for now. I can come in and add these frames, and these things are just gonna be, you know, templates for how things flow. I'm not sure. I can always move those things around. There are so many different options for layouts. It just depends on what it is you're trying to do. Now, one thing you can do, which I have not seen in any other interface, is you can do what's called typing on a path. So I'm going to type out some text. And it's currently popping up at the top, and that's fine. I'm going to change it to something that I can see. Again with this like green. Okay, we'll go yellow, that's fine. So, Adventures of D2D. Oh, I don't know. What did we do in D2D? Okay, my one class knows about this. I have one class. Dinner is always at 4. Always remember to lock what you don't want moved. If you don't want it to move, lock it in place. Go to your layers. This is strange. Very strange. Very strange. Okay. What it has happened as for some reason my text is linked to this rectangle, which I've personally never seen before. So that's fine. We're gonna undo that. And I'm gonna add a text frame. And I'll just type it out. Dinner is always at 4. Click, change the color up. Back to my yellow. Okay. So I could do some funky stuff with this. So you might be like, what are all these different dots? So some of these just move things. I'm able to round out my boxes. Looking familiar? Like some of these things carry over. So these are going to move the whole frame. This one is going to stretch it out, and this one is going to round it out. But what I want to do actually is I just want to take this whole thing and scale it up really, 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 really big. I would like it to work for me in real time. I'm actually going to just jump up to something crazy. Let's go to 50. I've got my overset text error. That's fine. I'm going to fix it. So that's one way I can do it. The other thing I can do is I'm going to grab my pen tool and so I've got my pen tool path. I can take this same thing. I'm going to take this actually, copy it, come back to my pen tool, and then hit type on a path. Turn it off so you can see. Hit paste. So I'm able to draw my own path for text and make it look as funky, as creative as I want to do it. It's lots of fun. Add some more character to what you're doing. So these are two different ways that you can control your text. Okay. Moving on to some other fun stuff. Additionally, if I am working with images, so I'm going to bring another image in. File place. Actually, I want to show you something. So I'm going to bring this image in. I'm going to show you what happens. So I'm going to draw it in place, and I can draw it to be as wide, but I just won't get the full effect of what's happening. So this is when I would take my frame, and I'm not necessarily cropping my image, but I'm just controlling how much of it is visible. So again, if I double click, see that box? This is the image itself. So which portion of the image is going to be seen versus what's the shape of that image going to be? Okay, so let's say I've got my spread, my image, everything's fine. I currently have no errors. But then I get the big bright idea that I'm going to move things around unnecessarily. So I'm going to come to my desktop, or even by accident. I'm not going to say, unnecessarily. Things do happen, but I'm telling you right now, don't do it. If I have my DIA and I decide to come to my patterns, and then I do something as simple as like moving my pattern to my people, and then I come back here. Oh, error. What's wrong? Let's go to our pre-flight links. So like I said, everything is linked here. So you see I get this question mark. The quality goes down. It's missing. What do we do? What do we do? So click to view the details of info section. Double click to select error in the document. So if I double click that question mark, it'll allow me to open up, and it's like, all right, go ahead and find it. So I'm going to go back, go through the things, scour my folders, and try to find my missing image. I know I just put it in people. So I'll click that, hit open. It's relinking it. And in just a moment, we should be all good to go. And we're all set. Okay, so let me double checking my notes just to make sure that there isn't any issues. So notice how my images are nice and crispy. These are because I got them from a source that, typically deals with high quality images. You must resize your images to make sure that they are 300 DPI, okay? You're printing everything, so make sure that you have everything to the right dimension so that nothing comes out pixelated. We definitely don't want that. Don't forget your align tool. So let's say in this situation, I've got this and I've got that, and I really actually want them to be aligned. So I'm going to hold shift, select that box. Now they're both selected. I will come to my align tab, which I don't currently have. Well, there's some few icons up here, but what I also can do, remember, I can always come up to my window and add whatever tabs I don't see. And there actually is no align tab, which is fine. There's actually way less tabs for you to be worried about. But remember, it looks like this. So anytime you see that line going through on the sides or on top or through the middle, that's your aligns. So I'm going to add that. Okay, I could also, let's move these to the side, move them there. We're just going to keep them center, and then you can always align to the selection, to the margin, to the page, to any spread. Going back to that parent situation, so here is my parent. I double clicked it, and I'm going to just add something just so you can see what I'm talking about, and I'm going to end up deleting it. But if I come over to place, add something else. So he's probably on the bottom, underneath these images. But do you see how the same image popped up? Because it's on my parent folder. So I've got a parent folder for the left And I've got a parent folder for the right. Um, and I don't want that, but I just wanted to show you what happens. So, I mean, you could put anything on your parent, whatever you would want. I was going to say page numbers, but page numbers would not be the same throughout. So I would type those in manually, but do make sure that they are within your margin so that they don't get cut off. Other things you can do for the sake of keeping things organized, there's just a lot of overlap. So you can always pull up your grids, your guides. You've already got a ruler here. If you want to create your own guide, it works the same way. You just start over here in your ruler and just click and drag it out. Start in the ruler, click and drag it down, and that's a guide for you to create. If you don't want that, you'll just come up to view, go to guides and rulers, and then you can just either hide them or lock them. Okay. Another thing I can do, and I believe I hit W because it's not showing me. Oh no, okay. Another thing that I can do is when it comes to my text, hold on, I'm missing stuff. I have gotten rid of my margins. Technically, technically, a margin and a bleed are guides. So if you hide them, you might hide everything. If you don't want it, so let me just do that one more time. If you don't want it, you can click it and delete it. It's very simple. But hiding your guides will get rid of everything. Now, when it comes to text, if I want to set up some filler text, I can also do that. So let's say I want to have 2 spreads worth of text. Come down to place with placeholder, or fill with placeholder text. And that way, I kind of have an idea of what I'm working with. I can know exactly how I want it to look. And this is just for visual purposes. Okay. So, InDesign is pretty simple. Like once you have all of the things, you can definitely, make it work to your advantage. So I just grabbed the gap tool, and this is kind of helping me control how much space is going to be in between my gutter, which is going to be that space between my columns of text. So that's here. Your line tool you can use, your pen tool you can use. This is if you want to fill some color. The scissor tool, so I believe you should know what the scissor tool is, but if you don't, so I'm going to make a random shape. And then if I grab my scissor tool, I can make a point there and a point there. And now I have, it's like literally cutting things in half. So that's there for you if you need it. If you need to make your own gradients, You can also do that. Hang on there. With my gradient swatch tool. One moment. And put a little square down. An 86 at tool. It's not working for me. Not working how I wanted it to. Okay, so that's really the gist, you guys. You don't need much to do this. Make sure that you have all of your ideas fleshed out. You have your graphics done. So the most of your work is going to be done outside of this, making sure images are right, getting your text together, doing your graphics, making your designs, doing your drawings, whatever it is you choose to do. And that will, conspire most most of the time that you're going to take to work on this. And then putting it together. Putting it together should be kind of like building a puzzle piece, and you can add some fun things and switch some things up. But, if there's a feature that you're looking for, it's very possible that it is available inside of this program. You can also play with different effects. So check those out. I definitely encourage you to just explore what things do. Experiment. Oh, text wrap. I guess I didn't even talk about text wrap. That's important. So I can take, and I also really appreciate you guys' patience. After losing my grandpa, I'm just kind of a mess. I'm kind of a mess. So please forgive me. So text wrap, you know how text wrap works, I'm sure. If I were to have a shape, I'm gonna fill it. And then I put some, let's go and add some text, blah, blah, blah. So right now, my box is on top. Well, actually, how would you know? How would you know? Because they're the same color. Let's change that up so you can see which one is which. Okay, so right now text is on top of the box. I could always select both and choose how my text is going to interact with any given object, and those options are here. Likewise, I can draw any shape I want and fill it with text. So if I can turn any shape into a text box by selecting it and grabbing my type tool and typing inside. So that is also something you can do. I'm gonna just play with some gradients. I guess I don't know what this tool does. I gotta figure that out. If someone finds out before me, let me know. I'm gonna grab just a box, which should be stretched to my bleeds, but let's fix that. Go to V. Okay. If I double click that gradient, these seem a little less sophisticated than my Illustrator options. But it's okay. Gradients work semi the same. If I like this blue, I can always come to my swatch tab over here and just add it. Jeez, oh Pete. Okay, new gradient swatch. Okay, this video is getting a little lengthy, but I just want to make sure all of our bases are covered. Ah, yes, very important. So, okay, another thing I can do regarding images. So if I want to move both without having to worry about which one is selected, I'll just hold Command and it will move both my frame and the image itself. So keep that in mind. Lastly, so right now I have my text and everything needs to be converted into an outline. This is probably one of, if not the most important things you will have to do. So I'm going to go to text, and this is going to be the last thing that you're going to do. So I'm going to, I'm just going to grab these guys. Well, I'll grab this guy and then that guy. Let's see. Change. Where are you? Oh, it's right in my face. Jesus. Okay, so type, go down to create outlines, and this converts my text into like an object. But like once it's this object, there is no like retyping. It's kind of done. Like I can move each individual box, but there's no editing that text again. And so this is important because this is like your plastering of that text so that I can have access to it and then the printer folks can have access to it as well. And I just want to make sure that I don't leave anything out so that we don't have to do more than one video and have more than one thing for you to watch. Oh, another cool thing. So I'm actually going to launch Photoshop because I want you to see that you can do this. If you're still working on an image, in Photoshop, and you're not too sure how you want it to look, like you don't want to have to like save it in Photoshop, pull it back up in Illustrator or InDesign, then go back to Photoshop, try to fix it, you can always upload a PSD into your document. And this is interchangeable throughout the Adobe suite. You can always work with documents that belong to Adobe. And then make changes as you go, which is a super cool feature just in case you don't know exactly what you want to do.